Hey gang, it's Dr. Steve here in the heart of Barcelona. I'm in front of the Arc de Triomphe, which is a beautiful monument. It was built in 1888 when Barcelona was hosting the World Fair, and it's this glorious example of Moorish architecture. It's very specific to Catalan civilization. Remember, in Spain, it's made up of provinces that are relatively autonomous, and Catalonia is one of those autonomous regions, relatively autonomous, that has its own distinctive culture and civilization. And it's precisely that civilization that's actually at the heart of the rise of a brand new right wing here in Catalonia. Now, many of you may know this thing we call post-security politics, where more and more populations feel increasingly insecure because of the way globalism uniquely erodes the securities that we were promised with the nation-state project, things like border security, economic security, and cultural security. Well, what's happening here in Barcelona and in Catalonia as a whole is there are two major insecurities that are fostering the rise of a new right. An internal insecurity and an external insecurity, an internal threat and an external threat. The internal threat, frankly, is the rise of Islam. They're very concerned, like much of Western Europe, on the growing Islamist presence throughout here. There's estimates it's anywhere from 10 to 13% of the population, perhaps even higher. And they feel, of course, Catalans feel threatened in terms of the preservation and the defense of their unique civilization and culture with that rising Islamist threat. But there's an external threat as well, and this is fascinating. That external threat is Spain itself. Now remember, these provinces they're relatively autonomous, and Catalonians, if you may recall, back in 2017, they passed a referendum where they wanted their independence. They wanted to actually secede from larger Spain. Now it fell apart and collapsed in terms of their efforts. And in many ways, those efforts, those sentiments seem to have dissipated in recent years. But nevertheless, because of this rise of the Islamic threat, there's the continued sense that, wait a minute, we're not being kept safe by Spain at large, so maybe we need to take care of our own borders. Now, we've talked about another dynamic that's really taking over the world, and it's what's known as re-territorialization. And that's where more and more populations are relocalizing their politics as globalist structures that centralize politics away from local populations. As they begin to wane, more and more populations are reasserting their political sovereignty. And we're seeing that work itself out in like 3 different experiments. We're talking about the of civilization states like Russia and China and India, where you have these epical, massive civilizations rising up again. But we're also seeing re-territorialization in the form of new nationalisms. That's the MAGA movement, or Viktor Orban's Hungary, for example. But we're also seeing it manifest itself in new secessionist and independence movements. And Spain and Catalonia are in many respects, they are sites for those latter two outworkings of re-territorialization. Spain is going through a new nationalism, particularly with the Vox Party, what we'll be talking about more during the week. But it's also going through a new secessionist movement, like here in Catalonia. And the new right is very much anti-Islam on the one hand, but also anti-Spain on the other. Internal threat, external threat. And the more the internal threat becomes a problem, the more they're going to blame it on the externality, the failure of Spain to be able to protect their borders. So we'll see how this re-territorialization works itself out in terms of these post-security politics, specifically here in Catalonia and in Spain at large. It's fascinating stuff for sure.
Gang, as you know, we look out for each other on this channel. Your safety and your security are our #1 priority. So if you haven't secured the deed to your home as of yet, you need to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. I was absolutely shocked when I found out how easy it is to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that all our deeds are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new homeowner, take out tons of loans using your home's equity, and then they stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're simply amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code Turley Talks. Then all you got to do is enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. It's a $100 value, absolutely totally free with my promo code Turley Talks. Gang, don't wait for the worst to happen only to regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today.
This is the monastery of Saint Père de la Poulet. It's a building that's more than 1,000 years old. And it's a beautiful example of Catalan Gothic. Catalan Gothic isn't so interested in the big, massive heights that European Gothic generally is, and it doesn't have an emphasis so much on the windows, the stained glass windows, again, reaching to heights. It's more emphasizes silence and cloister and just space and the sanctity of space. It's very, very powerful and very moving and very sacred. Up high there, one of the coolest things about ancient medieval cathedrals is they play with sacred geometry. So up above, you have circular shapes. That represents heaven because a circle doesn't have any point of beginning. But then as you bring it down, the cathedral itself, you see, becomes very cornered. And that represents the four corners of the earth, and particularly the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, the four elements of the cosmos. And this is why you have four major pillars that bring heaven down to earth. Those four pillars represent the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. One of the reasons why the New Testament has four Gospels is because of the sacred number of four for the whole cosmos. It indicates that the totality of the cosmos is being recalibrated around the transformative life, death, and resurrection of Christ. And then if you go farther there and you see the apse area, I should say, that's the sanctuary where the priest offers up the Eucharist. And you again see that it's circular. That's where heaven meets earth. So the entire cathedral really is the cosmos in stone, a distinctively Christian cosmos where heaven and earth come together in Christ. There's also directional indicators in addition to the spatial indicators. So here we're facing west, the place of darkness. And interestingly enough, we have a cross of Christ in that direction. But then as you turn towards the most holy place, it's towards the east. And you have two windows in there, most likely representing the two natures of Christ, his divinity and his humanity. And so morning, the sun is rising in the east and it's breaking through those windows such that nation and congregant are worshiping God together. As the sun is rising, our prayers, our hymns are rising up at the same time. So there's this glorious cosmic unity in Christ. And again, it's the cathedral that invites people to participate in that unity. This is going to be the northern wall. And because we're in the northern hemisphere, this is going to be the dark side of the building. Oftentimes they'll have, if they have stained glass window, they'll often have Old Testament saints on this side of the building, the north side, the darker side. The side that gets the sun is the southern side. And notice here, immediately you'll see that the architects exploit that And so the sun is not just coming in through the east, but it's also traveling through the southern directionality, filling this sacred space with sacred light. And there's the baptismal font. Why don't we get that? Yeah. So again, using the Western and Eastern spatial indicators here. So when one is baptized, they're baptized facing the West. You're seeing Christ's baptism up above in the icon. And they're renouncing darkness, the place where the light sets. They renounce Satan, they renounce darkness, they're washed anew in the cosmic waters of baptism, and then they move eastward to the place of light. And so the movement of Christian initiation has this beautiful spatial movement to it, moving from west now to east, the place of light. And so having been reborn, as it were, in the waters of Eden, restored in baptism, now you can come to the tree of life and its restoration in the Eucharist. So again, the entire church is a map of a Christian cosmos that you don't just believe, but you actually participate in and become immersed in.